Hey guys, John here. Today's vital patch is called Pizzicato. It sounds a little something like this. Or you could do like the little cartoon thing, right? You're like tiptoeing and something like that. I don't know. It kind of changes the whole vibe of that. Okay, so let's get into this here. So the effects, let's turn this off. Chorus, delay, equalizer, reverb, and yeah. So let's go to the voice section here. We're using all four, so oscillator 1 through 3, and then the sample oscillator. Okay, so let's go to the first one here. It sounds something like this. So that's kind of the main part of the sound here. This is going to be three waves grace, right? like the band, three waves grace. I think that's funny. Anyway, 3 graces over here, and then the frame is going to be 154.7. But this is also modulated slightly here by envelope number 2, which is going to be this guy right over here. So the attack is going to be 0, hold 0, decay 1 second, sustained 0.511, and the release 0.089. 4 voices of unison, and I left the default 20% detune. And then kind of we're just building off from this here. So before we get into the other oscillators, the amp envelope is kind of important here because we're doing a pluck, right? Something just quick. Once we hit a note, it enters and it's gone. It's, poof, it's gone. Okay, so for this one here, the attack again, 0, hold 0. The decay is going to be really quick, 0.319 seconds, a merciful death, and sustain 0, release 0.089. Okay, so moving on from there, we have oscillator number 2, and this is going to be an init saw wave, one of the best waveforms. Now this is kind of just adding on to number 1 here. So this is going to be up 1 octave here. The level is going to be 0.5, so pretty much default here as well. 4 voices of unison and no detuning as well. And yeah, going to filter number 1, which really all of these are except the sample, which we're going to get to in just a second here. And next up we have oscillator number 3, which is going to be a basic shape square, which exactly on the frame is going to be 162.7. No unison here for the voices, and the detune's 20, but again, that doesn't really matter because we have 1 voice. And it kind of just gives a nice little vibe, I think. Okay, so the level for this here as well is 0.5, so nothing too crazy for that. And then last but not least, we kind of have that same thing again, right? A little bit of white noise, and this is kind of just simulating the plucking sound, right? Just get a little bit noise in and out, poof, it's gone, right? Just to simulate a little bit of the, almost like the finger hitting the string or something kind of like that, or a pick or something. Subtle little thing, but it makes quite a bit of difference in the grand scheme of things. So this one here, as you can see, the level is modulated by envelope number 4, which is this guy down up here, which is pretty similar to number 3, but really they're close, but they're not exact. So I kind of like using independent envelopes if I can to really kind of dial it in specifically. So for envelope number 4, the attack's 0, hold 0, decay 0.226, so even faster merciful death, and then sustain 0, and then the release 0.089. And this one is going to filter number 2, which is going to be an analog bandpass. So we click the analog, select analog, and then B/P/N, and we select that one, and then we have a bandpass over here. And this is going to be at a cutoff of 3,560 hertz, and the resonance 55.94%. So it's kind of just doing that. So with all of these together, we have something like this. So it's very dry because we don't have any effects going on here, so let's kind of get into that here. So first thing that it hits is going to be a chorus to kind of soften it up a little bit. It's a little too plucky, too little harsh, I guess. So the chorus kind of softens it up, kind of moves it around a little bit. That's going to be 8 voices here, the tempo 8/1, and then the feedback 54.85%. Mix, it looks like it's 0, but it's really modulated by macro number 4, which we're going to get to at 0.34, which is 34%. Depth 22.46, delay 1.953, delay 2, 7.812, cutoff 60, and the spread, which is always funny to say, 1. And now we have delay. Now this one's interesting because we have 1/16 dotted. Keep in mind this is going to be dotted. There's a tiny little dot there. And then the other one is going to be 1/8, which is going to be sync. So don't worry about that low end that you hear. That's really nasty. We're gonna hack that off here in just a minute. So for the feedback for this delay, it's gonna be 63.03. The mix all the way down, it looks like, but it's really macro number 3 at 0.60 or 60%. The cutoff is 59.24, and the spread is 0.051. So now this is the time where we kind of just shape the sound after all this stuff here. So that low end, especially with those delays, drives me crazy. So let's turn on this equalizer here. And we're going to kind of clean that up here. So this first note here is going to be a cutoff at about 61.72 hertz. This guy down over here. And we're kind of just hacking that off entirely. And then over here for this next node, the cutoff is going to be 851.7. And we're actually adding 3 dB here. And then we have a high shelf at the very top here. The cutoff is going to be at 2,481 hertz, and we're adding 4.069 dB. The resonance 10. And last but not least, the reverb here. Gotta give it a nice wide open spaces. Low cut 227.0 hertz, high cut 2,765. Cutoff 88.175, core amount 5%, delay 0. Mix looks like it's 0, but it's really on the macro 0.38, 38%. The gain 0, core frequency 0.250, size 50%, and time 1.055. So now we kind of need to run through the macros just a little bit so you can kind of know what's going on here. So we have the main cutoff right here. Basically, if we want to just kind of soften it up or brighten it up, we always have this nice macro control to work with that. Although keep in mind, this only has a range from right over here, right? So there's only a certain range you're kind of limited in, because if you go too high, it's going to be kind of too plucky and kind of painful to listen to. And if it's too low, it's just kind of useless at that point. So this macro cutoff is kind of where you want to reach for. And then we have our resonance as well. Kind of gives a little bit more of that twanginess to it. And then so since this patch is really built on a lot of delays, it's kind of the character, I guess, of this patch, right? All the delays kind of bouncing back and forth. And you kind of want to play it sparingly because there is a lot of delays. If you do too fast and you're kind of a little bit out of time, it's really going to get nasty. So that's why I have the delays on a separate macro, because you can always dial them down or kind of remove them if you don't want them at all. But I kind of think they're kind of cool, really loud, and kind of just in your face there. Kind of fun to play like that. And then for the last thing, we have the effects here, which is really going to be the chorus mix and then the reverb mix as well. So that's kind of why they're separated. Normally, I would put the delays and reverbs and choruses all in one knob. But since this is kind of specialized in the sense that the delays are kind of a big feature of this patch, they're on a separate macro for a little bit better control there. And yeah, with that like pluck staccato, pizzicato kind of sound, maybe keep the cutoff a little bit down over here, maybe at 0.237-ish area. Kind of gives that vibe a little. Or if you want to do the cartoon steps, you can totally do that too. I don't know what it is you do, but maybe that's what you're looking for, and maybe this is your patch. But anyway, yeah, so that was the pluck staccato. So hopefully you learned something. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to get this patch for free, there's a link in the video description below, and it can be yours. So yeah, hopefully you learned something, and we'll see you in the next video.